turn your cell phones off? Thank you. About 1 minute before the meeting. No, I don't think we're going to have video today. There's something wrong with the system. No, I just wanted to check. I understand. Actually, he said we won't be able to see it there, and I wasn't sure if these got turned off in the hurricane. It's 9 o'clock and time for the Tuesday, October 11th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County. I thank everybody for coming here today. We're going to begin with an invocation by Commissioner Davis, and it best be one of his best ones. We need it. And that'll be followed by the pledge by Jason Brown.
Please assume an attitude of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we truly want to thank you today for keeping us safe as a community and for dodging the bullet. But more importantly, we want to keep those that have been affected by the hurricane. And we know the anguish that the community is just now starting to go through and will go through for months to come. Again, thank you for keeping us safe, and we count our many blessings, and we know it was your divine intervention that created a wobble. May we use your guidance and your knowledge and your wisdom in the decisions that we make here today that will affect this community for generations to come. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Will you please face the flag and join me in the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll ask if there are any additions or deletions to the agenda, and I'll mention that we'd like to add a few comments on the hurricane from myself and Jason Brown to start, which will be right under proclamations.
And Mr. Chairman?
Sir.
I'd like to, I guess probably, I don't know whether it's going to be under the Commissioner O'Brien's matters, but I had a constituent call me about the debris cleanup specifically on private streets. Would like to either add that in the citizen input or wherever it would be most appropriate, probably under Commissioner O'Brien's matters, if that's okay.
I would think if Commissioner O'Brien wants to add that to the
That'd be
agenda
fine. I think they're all related to that. So that would be my request that the board would add discussion about the hurricane debris cleanup, and it can be under my matters, Mr. Chairman.
Great.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. We will,
Everybody.
we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion we added by myself and Jason Brown. I'll begin and then let Mr. Brown follow up. As everyone knows, we were very fortunate to come through the hurricanes as we did. Life is pretty much already back to normal for most of us, which is really pretty exceptional, especially considering how we went into it on Wednesday. For those whose recovery is slower and who were impacted harder by the recovery, I certainly hope that you too can quickly get to back to a very normal routine. The hurricane event did show a few things. For me, one of the things it most clearly showed was the value of our Emergency Operations Center. That was the first time I saw it in action. We didn't have it in 2004, 2005. And just sitting in the back as the people who were going to address the hurricane went to work, to me, was extremely impressive. One of the things that showed to me very immediately was the importance of every department in this Indian River County government working together and needing to coordinate, and then how the coordination of everybody else from the different municipalities, from the different law enforcement agencies, from different groups as wide-ranging as FP&L and the American Red Cross, were all in the same room, getting the same information in a very timely manner, and clearly ready to work together. And I found that to be, as a citizen who was getting the benefit of this, to be extremely worthwhile and confidence building. I'd also like to thank all the county workers who worked through the emergency services. A lot of them worked very long hours, And I'd like to thank all those who came to the county to work. Different FP&L crews, different crews that came in for the City of Vero Beach Electric. A lot of people were on the ground almost as soon as the hurricane stopped, helping us recover very quickly. And I'd like to thank some of the political players involved. It was clear that Governor Scott was very involved throughout the hurricane. There were regular hurricane updates, and Governor Scott was almost always on the phone, and it was good to have the leader of the state of Florida engaged in the process. I'd like to thank Representative Mayfield, who regularly was on the phone with our officials, seeing what she could do for us. Senator Nelson actually came and visited the ELC for a couple hours on Wednesday afternoon. I'd like to thank him. And I'd like to thank State Senator Jack Latvala, who called me at my home Saturday to check and see if Jackie and I were all right, and if there was anything he could do with the state of Florida to help us through this event. And finally, just on the post-hurricane, I have special thanks for the law enforcement officers who were out there guiding citizens through the lights. I mean, one of the things I think, the only thing I really know that we need to do better going forward is getting citizens used to things when they go wrong. It was astounding to me to be at stoplights and see people, what would have been stoplights, but the light's no longer out, and seeing people just go through, la-di-da attitude. And I was really amazed when officers who I thought were giving, at corners, who I thought were giving extremely clear signals were, I don't think ignored by citizens, but misunderstood by citizens. So those are areas that we need to improve on. But for those officers to be there like that, guiding traffic at that time, I really thank you. So again, basically it's a big thanks to everybody. I appreciate everything that they all did. And it was only because everybody worked so well together that we're able to be here today in basically a very wonderful situation for the county. I'll pass it over to Mr. Brown now.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Solari. Just want to give an update on some of the things that happened during the storm. The first is the storm information. As we all know, it's a Category 4 storm with wind speeds in our area. We experienced 45 to 55 mile an hour wind speeds with gusts from 65 to 74. Our rainfall was about 3 to 4 inches east of 95, and west of 95, 1 to 2 inches. But I do want to point out how very close we came to this being much worse. We all know we were very blessed and fortunate to have that wobble happen. But the conditions at sea, the seas, this is information reported from the National Weather Service. Waves offshore were 35 to 40 feet with 15 to 20 foot breaking waves. And we just got information late yesterday from the National Weather Service that the eye wall, we know the eye was several miles offshore, but the eye wall came within 3 to 5 miles of our coast here in Indian River County, from about 1:30 a.m. at the South County to about 4 a.m. At the Sebastian Inlet at the North County line.
And it was a Category what?
4.
At that time?
I think it was 4 at that time, yes. 4.
Wow.
So we really, it was, I think I have to attribute this to Brian Burkeen, but he said we dodged a bullet, but we got a little graze to the forehead. It was that close. Just some timeline. We began preparations in earnest last Monday, October 3rd. Of course, we're always prepared during this time of the year. Our emergency management folks make sure that we are. Our operating departments test their generators, do all that stuff, make sure that everything's ready to go at any time during this time of year. Then last Tuesday, while we were sitting here in the board meeting, a hurricane watch was issued for our county, and later that day that was turned to a hurricane warning. On Wednesday, we began, we had a partial activation of the EOC by that time, and by Wednesday we had issued voluntary evacuations for the Barrier Island and low-lying areas, manufactured homes and substandard housing. Later in the day, as the forecast was getting more dire for our area, we expanded those voluntary evacuations to properties east of US 1, and and with mandatory evacuations for the barrier island beginning Thursday. On Thursday at 6 in the morning, we moved our EOC to level 1 full evacuation. At 7 o'clock that morning, we declared a state of emergency in Indian River County, and the mandatory evacuations were effective for 8 a.m. that morning on Thursday. Our emergency shelters were open at 8 a.m. as well. And at 9 p.m. Thursday night, bridges to the barrier island were closed to all traffic to keep our residents safe. The storm came through overnight. First thing in the morning, we had sheriff's office, police departments out patrolling the county to check on conditions and see if it was safe to go out. As soon as they were able to get that message back to us, our fire crews started going out and responding to calls. By 8 o'clock, our road and bridge, our utilities, our field crews were out there able to get out on the ground and start making repairs and do the damage assessments that were needed. And we continued throughout that day with the recovery efforts, which I'll detail a little bit more later. 5 p.m. Friday evening, we lowered our level of activation of the EOC from full activation to partial activation. And by yesterday morning, all our county offices were open to the public and continued recovery operations as we continue them today. So electricity, we all know that any event like this, the electricity is affected substantially. So our two electric providers, the City of Vero and Florida Power and Light, will go over their numbers. City of Vero had 20,000 estimated customers affected. They have, our most recent report is they are down under 100 customers that are affected at this point, and virtually everyone is connected to power now. Florida Power and Light, they had 48,720 customers affected, and this morning as we sit here today, the latest number I got, and Bart's here and he can correct me if he's got any newer numbers, but they were down to 60 without power. So those are, when you get down to those numbers, those are the areas where you may have weatherhead issues with the property, or something with a pole that needs to be replaced, or some very challenging situation, but we're essentially at the point where virtually everyone has power, save for a handful of our folks. On the shelters, we had over 1,000 people stay at our 5 shelters. I think the number was 115 at our special needs shelter. Our pet-friendly shelter was at capacity with 180 folks there. Our largest ongoing issue right now is debris, and I'm just going to give a little brief overview because we're going to talk about that in more detail later. But we have worked with our outside debris contractor, and with them have estimated that we have about 35,000 cubic yards of debris out there to be picked up. With the pre-approved contract, we're looking at about a $460,000 cost for that, plus some other potential costs for final disposal may take that number up over 500,000, closer to 600,000. All of our customer convenience centers were open for regular hours yesterday and continue on. As you'll recall, half of our convenience centers are closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The other half are closed on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We have worked with Republic, our company that operates those centers for us, and they have agreed to keep all of the convenience centers open Tuesday and Thursday, so they can handle that additional flow. They will be closed Wednesday. They've really worked hard to get those additional services. They've got some time restrictions on their truck drivers, just the state and federal guidelines. They have to have a certain required amount of rest, and they've worked very hard to get there to help extend those hours for us. In the unincorporated area, the county's debris hauler will come through starting on Thursday and do those extra pickups in the public rights of way. City of Vero is beginning a similar program on Thursday as well, and the other municipalities are working on their debris also. Next, our fire rescue activities. When our normal shift change happens at 8 in the morning, so obviously we were expecting to have hurricane conditions at that point, so we brought in 2 shifts. So we had A shift who would normally get off at 8 o'clock on Friday morning. B shift would start at 8 o'clock Friday morning. We called those folks in at 2 in the afternoon on Thursday, so we'd have the ability to have additional resources in the field. Those folks were helping out with getting folks to special needs shelters and all kinds of activities throughout the days Thursday and Friday. And so we called those folks in at 2 p.m., 18 hours early from their normal shift. And then the A shift was held over. They normally get off at 8. Most of them were able to be released at about 12 once we had cleared all the calls and done any major reparation to the stations. Some of those folks stayed a little later to help out with the special needs folks, moving them back out of the shelters. In all, a very, very rough number, about 1,500 hours of overtime there. I do want to say those folks got rolling as soon as it was safe after the storm, but just to re-emphasize the importance of heeding the evacuation warnings and taking those protective measures, we had to suspend making calls once the winds reach a certain threshold. So by the time we were able to get out and rolling, there were over 100 calls queued up for service. So those folks were out there as soon as it was safe to do so, clearing all those calls, and really worked hard getting that stuff done. Next, I want to give an update on our beaches. So while we were spared the worst impacts on land of the storm, our beaches were not. The wave action of the 35 to 40 foot seas was very devastating to our beaches. We've got several, as you know, but for the folks at home, we break up the sections of the beach into sectors. Sectors 1 and 2 at the north end of the county experienced approximately $1.2 million of damage. Sector 3, where Wabasso Beach, Disney Resort, those types of things, experienced about $4.5 million worth of damage, and there was some primary dune loss there. Sector 5, which is the city of Vero area, a little over $2 million. Sector 7 at the south end of the county, and all of the other sectors combined, we're looking at potentially $5 million. I will say these are rough preliminary estimates, but that's a total of about $12.9 million across our beaches. That number is subject to change. I think we think it may be even a little worse than that. But and we have James Gray is out meeting with the FEMA beach officials as we speak. He was out in the field with them inspecting the beaches at 5 p.m. last night, and they're continuing that work today, working with that. I do want to emphasize here that the county has been declared as a disaster and eligible for FEMA reimbursement for debris and emergency protective measures. As the latest that I know is they haven't made the determination on the other categories, which would include damage to county facilities and our roads and things like that, and beaches. Beaches are very important. Some of these beaches can be eligible under certain conditions for FEMA reimbursement for the storm damage. FEMA provides 75% reimbursement for most of these losses, so it's very important that we get that. We want to counter any thought, any perception. It seems like we're seeing some perception that Brevard County North got worse, but I think we need to make sure we're doing a good job of showing the damage that we have here. Our folks are working very hard on that, but it's very important that we get that communicated to FEMA and the federal and state officials, the amount of our damage to our beaches, very substantial. And as we all know, beaches are key to our tourism industry. Without the beaches, it's a significant impact on tourism, and tourism is one of the mainstays of our local economy here. Up next, I want to give you an update on roads and traffic conditions. The county had damage to several traffic lights and signalized intersections. The most notable was State Road 60 and 58th Avenue intersection. We lost that completely. Very, very challenging situation that if it's not our busiest, it's one of our top 3 busiest intersections in the whole county. Our outside contractor was able to get that signal back up and running Sunday. We had tremendous help from law enforcement managing the traffic at that location to ensure that the folks stayed safe out there. Some of our other intersections, State Road 60 and 74th Avenue, 57th Street and 66th Avenue, both of those received substantial damage, and all of our signalized intersections, our total estimated cost right now is about $800,000. Our road damage, A1A South near Smuggler's Cove and Shoreland, there seems to be a drainage issue there. The northbound lanes of A1A were fully covered with water for, I'd say, about 400 or 500 feet. That's an FDOT responsibility. They were out there yesterday pumping that water out because it was just sitting and sitting and sitting there. They did get message boards out and are pumping those out. At the north end of the county on A1A as well, near the Sebastian Inlet, there was storm surge activity, washed away much of the shore on the riverside there, took out large sections of sidewalk as well as many private docks. There were boats scattered about, and in one location there was erosion all the way to the edge of pavement and a little bit out of the shoulder. So we had a very narrow situation where there was no shoulder, and even the shoulder was there was a little loss to the shoulder. DOT did get cleanup crews out there first to clear the debris out of A1A to make it passable, and then they have message boards out there to warn motorists of the narrow shoulder situation, and they're working on that. So of our total traffic signals, we have about 150 traffic signals that the county maintains. As of midnight Friday, 143 were without power. By 7 p.m. Friday night, we were down to 89 signals that were without power, non-operational. By 7 p.m. Saturday, we were down to 28 signals without power, thanks to our electric utilities getting power restored to those. We were able to install 25 generators on those 28 intersections, to where we only had 3 that were not powered. The county has I think about 16 generators, and we were able to get an additional 25 from the state to power those intersections. So the state came through and brought some extra resources in for us very quickly. By 7 p.m. Sunday night, we were down to 6 signals without power, and the generators were all running on those. And by 7 p.m. yesterday, all of our signals had power. Many of them still need additional work, that $800,000 worth of work. A lot of them are running on timers rather than optimized, so we'll still have to get back to that. Our traffic engineering folks, essential staff, stayed here Thursday night over for the storm, and the staff there has logged 650 hours of work time since 8 a.m. Friday morning. And here I just want to make the point that, you know, a lot of the services we provide is kind of like water. Hopefully they're invisible to the public. If we're doing it right, they don't know what's happening. You turn on the water, you turn on the tap, the water comes out, everything's fine. So bear with me as I'm going through these details, and we were very fortunate, but there was a lot of work involved to just get us back to where we are today here. Road and Bridge, those crews were out by 8 a.m. Friday morning. Once again, essential staff and all of our departments spent the night Thursday night so they could get out there and get on the road and fixing things as soon as possible. The Road and Bridge crews get out there, start clearing trees out of the roadways as needed. We were fortunate there was minimal damage and just a few tree situations, but Road and Bridge staff has logged nearly 1,900 hours of additional time since 8 a.m. on Friday. All of our departments, telecommunications was out there making sure our fiber runs were working. A lot of those lost power and there was damage. Got to get those back up and running so that we can have normal computer communications. And that may sound like a small thing, but that's no small thing. We need to make sure that we're communicating with our traffic signals to the central office so we know what's going on there. It helps with the communication of our lift stations. If the lift stations can't communicate, then we don't know there's a problem, and there is a problem. So a lot of these little details, everybody came together and has a part to play to make sure that the whole thing works. Engineering went and did the visual assessment of the bridges. You got to make sure the bridges are safe before you can allow folks back over them. gone out and began working on to get us ready for debris disposal. Our utilities, we didn't lose any county water supply. We did not have to issue any boil water notices. We maintain about 395 commercial lift stations. Many of those were without power. By early yesterday, I think we were down to 6 without power, and they were running on generator, and we are all back up and running now. It was 4 as of yesterday at 11 a.m. that were running on generator power. Solid waste, we were able to get the customer convenience centers open Saturday at 10 a.m. Things weren't perfect there, but we worked with our contractor. I have to thank that Republic for helping us get those done over the weekend. 50 of the 40-yard containers were pulled from the convenience centers. So that's how much debris that was accepted. And we were able to resume normal recycling and garbage pickup collections on Monday. Damaged county buildings, we had some water intrusion in the courthouse on floors 2 and 3, some water intrusion at the IG building there, and we're working with the contractor to resolve those issues. Most substantial damage was to Jones Pier. The Jones Pier house had storm surge. I think there were about 18 inches of water in there, so that's a historic property that had substantial damage. It's going to take a lot of effort to get that building repaired. Various just some minor water roof leaks at this building, and small damage to systems from our overhead system to various AC units and things like that. Our building department conducted initial damage assessments. They go out and do the damage assessments on the buildings around town. This week we have prioritized issuance of storm-related permits. Yesterday we issued 7 emergency storm-related permits. I think those were mostly are all electric related. And some of that's the stuff that the folks need to be able to get their utility to provide power. Just want to go over our communications throughout the storm. We had radio broadcasts on Christian 91.9 FM. We had numerous press conferences that were attended by the local Palm Beach affiliates for NBC, Fox, and CBS, Christian 91, the TC Palm Press Journal, Vero News, and 32963. Press conferences including on Wednesday at 4, which Senator Nelson was kind enough to be here for, and Thursday at 10 and 2, and then Friday morning we were out there doing press conference at 5:30 in the morning and another one at 9:30. We broadcast all of this information, the press conferences, and our information on Channel 27. The county emergency services website had 74,000 page views during this time. Our web alerts, we had over 100,000 page views amongst our 6,400 subscribers, including those media outlets. We have our mobile app, which we just introduced a couple months ago, which has now which had a little over 900 subscribers before the storm, and now we're up to about 2,500. Our alert Indian River has 6,500 subscribers, up from 2,600 before the storm. Our Facebook, we went from 1,700 followers, already a good number, up to 4,300 followers, and our Twitter went from 1,400 followers to about 1,800 followers. So we were getting the message out in every medium that is in the known universe that I'm aware of. And one of the things that we plan to do is we've got those subscribers now, and we're going to continue to mine that. And once you get those followers, you can keep them. And as we go forward, we can help out with those preparation messages and all that stuff to make sure everyone stays informed, even when there's not a storm, to make sure that they're prepared. FEMA has made a declaration for public assistance for many counties in Florida, including ours, but right now that is for debris removal and emergency protective measures only. Those other categories, like the county buildings and roads and beaches and parks and communication systems, we have not determined that yet. Our total estimated losses, including the $12.9 million in beach damage, is near $14.5 million right now. So we were very fortunate, but there's a substantial impact here. FEMA is still working to make a determination on whether we're going to be eligible for individual assessment. The governor did send out notice late yesterday that the SBA loan program has been approved by the governor that can help out with small businesses and in some cases some personal loans to help folks get through if they were harmed by the storm. So I know that was a lot of detail, but just wanted to get some of the word out. I do want to thank a lot of folks from emergency management. The whole crew is top notch there. They keep us prepared at all times. There's Dwight Eisenhower had a quote that said, "In preparing for war, plans are useless, but the planning is indispensable." So a lot of times when you get into that event, you can't follow a plan, but the fact that you created a plan and went through all the scenarios you could conceive helps you, and being prepared, and those emergency management folks had us all ready to go. So I want to thank them all for that. Our fire rescue, road and bridge, traffic engineering, utility ops, and everybody has to do their part, from computer services, making sure that we're getting all the computers set up and moved, and we run into technology problems. Facilities management, we had, building issues. There was a little AC issue at one point, and numerous problems as the storm. That was before the storm, and then the storm hits. Going out there and making sure we can get our facilities back up and running. So if those folks don't prepare and support all of the other folks, they can't get their job done. Parks and Recreation out there helping out Road and Bridge, helping clean up the parks as well. GIS, Stormwater, the Building Division, Code Enforcement helping out. I have to say I have a great team of department heads. It kind of felt like we did the Vulcan mind meld before this thing, because as soon as I would say, hey, we need to do this, or we need to have something for this, they had answers. They could read my mind, and they already had answers and solutions ready to go. All of our management staff, particularly our frontline employees out there, hitting it hard and working very hard over the weekend, before the storm, overnight, during the storm, after the storm, to make sure we recovered. Those folks are away from their families. They'd like to be at home protecting their families, I'm certain, so we appreciate all of their work. I've said I wasn't going to list any of our folks by name because at there's too many, and I'm going to forget somebody. I'm going to make one exception. Edelo Presti did a great job. I put her up against anybody in the state of Florida, anybody in the nation. She really was top notch, and I have to thank her for keeping everything going and having us ready to go and able to prepare. I'd like to thank all of our partners in the EOC and in providing the service. The Sheriff's Office was great. All of our law enforcement for our municipalities right there in the EOC. We're talking, communicating, making sure things get done. And that goes beyond just providing the safety at the intersections and making sure the folks are safe out there. They helped us out. Their food vendor at the jail is the one that feeds us, and they were able to bob and weave and go from when we thought this wasn't going to be much, just give us 50 meals. Oh, this is going to be really bad. Send us 300 meals. Oh, it's a little better. They would adjust that, and I can tell you, food seems like a small thing, but when there's no power and there's no restaurants open, we've struggled mightily at times in the past, and we need to make sure our folks are fed so they can go out there and do the hard work we're asking them to do. We need to give them those tools. So the Sheriff's Office, also our recreation folks and our general services folks were able to help distribute that and get that to all of the different locations that we had manned, and just get that taken care of, because those folks need to have a full belly before they can go do their work. Health Department, Red Cross, Salvation Army, Senior Resource Center. I'm sure there's numerous ones that I'm missing. I want to thank the county attorney's office for being there. May not seem like you need attorneys, but you sure do need attorneys for doing various orders and contracts and getting things done the right way. So their support was valuable. Thank you to the county commissioners for the support you all provided, from providing feedback, what you're seeing out in the field, communicating with us and providing that support, and and visiting from time to time, and also letting us, giving us the freedom to do what we needed to do. So that was invaluable. I want to thank our citizens. Our residents we've got the best, you know. We've got people that just take care of themselves. They heed the warnings, follow the evacuations, make the preparations, and stay safe, so we don't have to go out and take care of folks that haven't done the things they need to do. So they've got that individual spirit and self-sufficient, go out and take care of what they need to do, and if they're and a sense of community. If their neighbor's struggling to do something, they're going and helping their neighbor out. So I want to thank our citizens too. You make one more exception to the no-name thing. Got to thank Dory. She was my brain, helping me when I lost my brain. As I said, she was there for me to help me out. In addition to all the senior management staff. Want to thank my wife. I was a deadbeat husband here for the last few days, and she took care of the home front very well, so I don't have to worry about it. And I want to extend that thanks to all of the spouses and all of the family members who sacrificed their family member to come help us. And with that, I think I'm finished. So if you have any questions, we'll give them a shot.
Thank you very much, Jason. Any questions for Jason? If not,
Just real quick on the comments. The one thing that was so much different from 2004 is clearly the ability to get so much information in the palm of your hand. And it was so, I mean, you could literally sit there and watch. If the power was out, you could still watch TV, you know, on Channel 25 local, and where they were covering it. You could watch it live online as if it was your, and that's just changed so much. And looking at just what you said, I saw how invaluable the social media aspects of preparedness, information, knowledge, and it is. And it was what was so frustrating 12 years ago was not knowing so much. You know how, and if you remember, County Road 512 was not 4-laned. We had at the Aquatic Center, the North County Aquatic Center. That's where FEMA came in with ice. We had traffic backed up because you couldn't get ice anywhere. And you know, water was water, but mainly was ice just to keep things, you know, to where you could eat kind of thing. But then you take it one step further from that now, and Publix now has the generators. The gas stations have generators. You can actually get gas, unlike before you couldn't even get gas because they didn't have power to run the pumps. And so, you know, that took a huge step forward from the way things used to be. But the one thing that concerns me the most probably is the thing that we cannot control, and I don't have an answer for it, and that is the telecommunications of some kind, you know, the cell phone service. Because that's the one thing that'll keep power, and that's the one thing we don't have any control over. And when I look at it, you know, in the future, it's almost like there ought to be a station for that somehow at our emergency services of how do we keep cell phone service to everybody. And just looking at something, and it's out of our control. I don't have an answer for it, but and maybe I'm the only one that just focused in on that aspect of it. But it's one of those things that I think that had we actually had a Category 4, is that infrastructure hardened to the point, or is there a plan that we could bring something in, even if it's just mobile cell phone service towers or something? I don't have the answer for it, but that's going to be huge if this was a Category 4.
And we did have AT&T staffs an ESF in our EOC. I will say many of the communication towers have generator power now, which many of them did not during the 2004 storms. And it is, you're exactly right, it's that much more important because we're far more dependent on these. I didn't have a cell phone in 2004, so and now got a smartphone, and we're so dependent on that to get our information. They do have cows. They're called Cellular on Wheels, and then a new one was Colt.
Yeah.
Cellular on Light Truck, Colt, and so really those things like the Publixes and the grocery stores and the gas stations, I think they're far better prepared, but we are working with those folks, and it's a great point. We do need to work with those and make sure that all of the providers are ready to go, because we did lose cell service for substantial periods of time in the 2004 storms.
And then one other comment, for those that did evacuate we've got a serious problem that needs to be addressed, and it's outside of our jurisdictional boundaries, and that is the intersection at 441 and State Road 60 at Yeehaw Junction. Whenever people were trying to leave, you see it on Facebook, where we've got remember Stan Mayfield, the late Stan Mayfield, he got the money to 4-lane State Road 60 all the way out across the turnpike. And so we got literally 4 lanes of exactly what needed to happen to get people away from the coast in the event that we have an emergency or catastrophic. But whenever you get there, you've got a full-way stop where it's starting to back up well into Indian River County to the point you're almost back to Blue Cypress if it's a really bad one. And so it does us, I believe that was about a 17, I don't even know how much that road cost us. But we did it for a purpose. We got the funds for a purpose, and that purpose was for evacuation. And whenever we have that intersection back up at 441, that needs to be just the intersection. And it's an afterthought to Osceola County. I believe it's Osceola, yeah. It's an afterthought because they're not worried about concurrency there. It's only an issue once you get past the intersections. All we really need is to make it to where you have 4 lanes and then let it all come back together and everybody be fine. But somehow, either through our MPO, through our legislature, something, that needs to be addressed because it's not going to do anything but get worse. And we've done everything we can to lift on our side, and that's where the bottleneck is now.
That's a great point. We'll put that on the list.
Sort of on that same note, we had a short discussion on reaching out to Osceola County probably a year or so ago about pushing 60 further west. Where was it on Osceola's plan? And at that time, you're right, there's no benefit to them to put money towards it because they're not going to get anything from it. But I think maybe now there may be some other resources of funding opportunity to go ahead and at least get it west of 441 and get them thinking of making that last 18-mile connection piece, start thinking in that direction. Because then once you get past River End, you're back to 4 lanes again. Mm-hmm. So, but we'll definitely bring that up as our MPO ongoing item.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to Commissioner Davis's question about the cell towers, did want to point out that one of our local manufacturers here in the county, Illuma Tower, they do make a portable cell tower turnkey operation. Comes with a generator. I forget exactly, but I think they said they can deploy it and get it set up and working in like 2 hours or something. So that's another resource available, and that would be great because it's a local manufacturer. Just kind of want to reiterate everything Jason said about thanking everybody. Everybody did a great job. But when I went out to the EOC Thursday morning, and Emergency Services Chief John King relayed an important fact to me I hadn't realized. And he said, when Joe Baird first became county administrator, it's 2004. And obviously we had Francis and Jean. And now Jason Brown takes over as county administrator in 2015, and we have Matthew. So it's very clear the recent trend is every time we get a new administrator, we get a hurricane. So I'd like to make a motion that Jason Brown cannot leave the county administrator position for the next 30 years until I'm long gone. So.
Can I second that motion?
Commissioner Fletcher.
Well, again, Mr. Chairman, you led this in with many thanks, and we have a lot to be thankful for. Jason, I don't know how to say this, but when you interviewed, you might have missed this part of the brochure, but you did an outstanding job, and I think the people of this county will realize the importance of having you as the key player. And I mean that sincerely. You were continually in contact with many of us. You had to put up with 5 county commissioners with inquiries, and you had to deal with us all separately. And there were many times that you were delivering information over and over again, but you did so, and did so electronically, and you did so the old-fashioned way, as many of our partners did too. So I just want to say thank you to you. I want to thank all the citizens for taking the governor's heed, and when he said very clearly, you will lose power. You will lose power, not you may. And he said, this may cause death. I think everyone heard that, and the citizens shut it up and prepared for Category 5 and left. And I think it made all of our jobs, all of the people, the boots on the ground,
easier to accomplish the necessary goals of recovery so quickly. Again, there is some things that we can always say we can do 10% better or 20% better. Nobody's going to say that we did 20% too good. So in the after-action report, I'm sure that we're going to find some things that we need to tighten up on. One of the things that I noticed, I did not respond to the EOC. I stayed out of the EOC. I did many days and weeks in various EOCs, and I believe that I should have been out of the EOC at this point to let you just get it done. But being outside, just in retrospect to what we did in 2004, cell phones were the size of a shoebox, if you had them. And yes, the cow was created, the Colt was not created yet, and we had Nextel lines all over the place, and they came in and supplied us, and it is their obligation to continue that technology. And I'm sure that we'll benefit from it in the future. The Colt is a fantastic tool and can service this county, so we'll look forward to that. But we brought up technology. We started talking about telephones and people being reliant upon them and being able to get just about everything you can out of it. Those were the people that had electricity. Those are the people who could charge the phones. Those are the people who had phones and had all of the apps necessary to be able to communicate, the ones that we're dependent upon each and every day. But at a time of a hurricane, things change. And I think we have to remind ourselves how important, how valuable that the radio communications are. Our radio stations were critical then, they're critical now. And we need to ensure that we have that diversity of communication. In addition, I believe that boots on the ground are critical. I believe that we need to have as much information out there as possible with all of our employees and that are out there servicing. They were out there right after the storm, and I believe that people that did stay were yearning for some information. I don't have the exact answer as to how we can accomplish this, but again, we had reader boards out. The reader boards work very well. But I believe that we have to stay focused in on the radio transmission, because all it takes is a 9-volt battery to be good for the week for the storm. And we might be over concerned about the technology application because it's one of the very first to go. And if we're here, then we have to ensure that people have the best information. But overall, I have to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who performed so well during the hurricanes. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll now move on to the rest of the agenda, which is short by design. We have 2 public hearings. The main idea of having the public hearings today was neither one of these public hearings seems to be of tremendous, I'll say, interest or excitement to the public, but we didn't want to delay moving them forward. So the idea today is, in case there was anybody who wanted to come here and speak on either one of these public hearings, they would have the opportunity in case they couldn't come to the next meeting on the 18th. But what I plan to do is just individually address the public hearings, open the public hearing, ask if anybody wants to speak, and if not, close the public hearing. And then, Dylan, do we need a motion to continue?
No, what we're going to do is we're going to actually have a motion to postpone and a second approve, and then the chair will then continue the public hearing until the October 18th meeting.
Motion to postpone, okay. And then we'll continue it to October 18th. On October 18th, again, anybody who wants to speak on the item will be able to speak. But we just want to make sure that people, if they couldn't come to the 18th, would have the opportunity to speak today. So with that, I'll move to the public hearing, which is a request from Stella Transport for a Class E1 Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity to provide wheelchair and non-emergency stretcher transports originating from Indian River County. And I'll now open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone who wants to speak on this item. Anyone who wants to speak on this item? So, Dylan, you want a motion to postpone?
Mr. Chairman, I move to postpone this to the next meeting.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Flesher.
Sir, do you have a question, or? You good? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0, and we will now continue this item until the meeting of October 18th. We'll move to a final hearing on the consideration of amendments to land development regulations, chapters 901 and 971, to establish regulations for medical marijuana treatment centers. I will now open the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this item? Sir, come on up.
Bob
Name?
Johnson, Carlwyn subdivision.
Thank you.
I would like to reiterate, as I did in the last meeting on the subject, was that there's no need to vote yes on medical marijuana. And I propose to make that suggestion on October 18th. But the absentee ballots have been sent out now, and I felt that it was important to express my views on the subject of medical marijuana. I'm not sure how the definition will end up on the treatment center and where the marijuana is going to be grown, but since this is being postponed to the 18th, I recommend to go forward on the 18th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else here wish to speak on this item? I'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask if anybody would like to make a motion to postpone.
So moved to postpone to the next meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Flesher. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. We will now continue this item until the meeting on October 18th. Thank you very much, and we'll now move to Commission Matters. Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My matter's dealing with the removal of hurricane debris that's currently scheduled to begin this Thursday in unincorporated county. I've been contacted by several homeowner associations that within their community, the roads are private. And back in 2004, after Francis and Jean, the county policy then was to not go into those communities that have private roads, and that it would be the responsibility of the local homeowners association to do the cleanup. And I understand staff's position back then. A lot of it dealt with, after those storms, we had a considerable amount of debris and damage physically on the roads and blocking traffic and blocking emergency services. And so there would be issues regarding the public purpose of the county going in and using taxpayer dollars to clean up a private road. In addition, there were some issues, I guess, whether that would impact our eligibility to be reimbursed from FEMA by doing the private roads. I think this case, we're a little bit different for a couple points. One is, most of the roads are clear and open, so the removal we'll be doing isn't necessarily to clean the roads, but just to clean all the debris that's been stacked alongside the road. And in my mind, I think that the homes inside the communities, even though the road is private, that those homes still pay their taxes and still should benefit from the county picking up all the debris removal. And then secondly, according to staff, the contractor that we have a contract with, they are capable of delineating private road pickups from public road pickups, and they can bill us separately. So therefore, we could still have a clean bill for what we would submit to FEMA, and then we would have the other, the private road stuff that we would or would not submit. But anyway, they can break it down so it won't impact our ability to apply for FEMA. And I guess also back in 2004, we did have some of these communities sign a right of entry permit and agreement so that the county's subcontractors doing the cleanup and the county would be held harmless if there was any ruts left in the road or any kind of damage from picking it up. So I just would like to bring this to the board's attention if they would like to consider amending our policy to go ahead and do the hurricane debris pickup both on private and public roads, and so that all of our residents can benefit from the service.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Davis?
I agree. It's as much of a quality of life issue specifically. I mean, I was able to take care of mine Saturday. We got up there, raked it up, got the chainsaw out and burn it. But, you know, not everybody has that luxury of being able to burn in their front yard. But with that said, it's as much of a problem if we were to have something similar to now Hurricane Jean come through, and then you got the debris piled up there. Then you got projectiles blowing around that, quite frankly, could blow across the public street into somebody's yard. So I just think this is the right thing to do. But I guess really my concern is making sure that they do sign that document that you're talking about, and I see that we've got one here in front of us. And my biggest concern is probably to legal, is we ought to, I think, probably have somebody put forth a well, to ensure that the person signing that document is one that can sign that document. And the only way to do that is probably going to be with the letters or the Florida Corporation Search, and ensure that the board of directors or president or whomever has signed that paper on behalf of the Property Owners Association.
Yeah, that's going to be our best evidence.
And that ought to be a part of the checklist, I think. That way, yeah, because if they're not incorporated, then nobody can really make the decision. And so they need to have their, I guess you could say, their business affairs in order to be able to truly hold the taxpayers harmless.
Sir.
With delineating between the public and the private, would it make sense with our contractor to do all the public first, get a clean bill? I know that they could do the split billing, but some of it's by cubic yard volume, not by individual address pickup. And with this additional release information, the neighborhoods that get a release in order first, I don't want to say that's who gets done first, but if you're putting somebody on the list that doesn't have their paperwork done, you shouldn't really have them on a list yet until they have their, kind of like a seniority list.
If I were doing the work and bidding it out, I would want to go and do it in a methodical geographical area versus going from South Beach going to somewhere out and, I mean, pick your other subdivision.
Except that there's probably going to be enough debris, and realistically, today it's Tuesday, and to get a list to people by Thursday morning of HOAs to go into and out of, I think is impractical. So, I think it's best to, if we go ahead with this, to get the public roads done as quickly and orderly as possible, and then that'll also make it easier for the bookkeeping for them to go out, and I would suggest probably something like next Monday. I don't think we're going to get the public roads done on Thursday. No. So, okay, so I think that gives us until Monday or next Tuesday, at least if we go ahead with the HOAs, to get those done, and it gives then the people in the homeowners association some time to actually get the documentation in.
Yeah, and I agree with as far as your chronological thought. When you consider, I'm catching a little bit of criticism, which is understandable, that why Thursday's awful late, why not now? But I think that by moving forward to change the policy, we won't have to go through this.
And again, everybody who thinks Thursday is late, I mean, Jackie and I had our stuff out Sunday, great. But a lot of people left the community, and we didn't want them back in the community until Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. I mean, we have a lot of old people in this community, and finding out that there are a lot of condos that are 2, 3, 4 stories up and no electricity, which is very difficult. So I applaud all those people who didn't come back until Monday or Tuesday. But then to expect them then to have all their debris by the curb on Thursday, is almost superhuman to begin with. So I think that Thursday is the earliest we could have gone with this and had it done effectively. Mr. Brown.
Yes, on the Thursday question, I want to say we want to try and do this once. So give the residents time to get out there. I think from the public versus the private, what I think our plan is, if the board wants to go in this direction, is to try to use our outside contractor on the public. Our public works folks think they can cover the private roads a lot. So I think there's going to take that time to get those affidavits or the right of entry forms done, so that process may start a little later, which in 2004 it did also. So I think we can, and if they need help, we can have the outside contractor help them to the extent that that's needed as well. And I do want to say I take responsibility for that. I made that call. There's some rumors out there, folks saying that this is Waste Management's fault. It's not their fault. Their contract was stipulated to do the regular garbage pickup. Their equipment is set to do the regular garbage pickup. That's why we have the separate emergency contractors, because you can't just have the person, on a normal brush day, if you've got 10 houses, 3 of them put some yard debris out because they did their yard work. Well, this week, all 10 of them are putting their debris out, and it's 10 times as much as they would normally put out. So they're just not equipped to do that. We're not expecting them to do that. Wouldn't be reasonable to expect them to do that. So it wasn't Waste Management. It wasn't any fault of Waste Management's. The decision was mine because there are some questions about the eligibility for reimbursement from FEMA. So trying to save the county dollars, we do, and there are some reasons behind that decision. That FEMA has taken a pretty hard stance on these private roads. In the 2004 storms, we had some extra resources. We were fortunate to have National Guard folks come, and we deployed them to go pick up some of the debris in the private roads to lower our cost, and just some different situations out there in the field, the magnitude of the storm, and all those reasons. I won't go into that too much, but I just want to say that was my decision, no one else's decision. I take full responsibility. If the board wants to provide this service on the private roads, we will get that done.
Thank you. Sir, name and address for the record, please.
David Nolte, 900 Royal Palm Place, Vero Beach, Florida. Whoever thought debris removal after a hurricane could be so complicated? But there's another factor you need to throw in there, and that is the people who have already paid for debris removal, and the private contractor that they use has already taken it to the dump where they paid the dump fees and everything else. So what about them? Are they going to get reimbursed, or they just lose out, or?
Mr. Chairman? My thoughts on that is, by all means, we encourage them to use the private sector, and if they want it done faster, we encourage that. I mean, for the most part, I would say that anybody that got out there and cleaned up their own yard is probably going to put it out there on the curb. Anybody that called in their yard person or the contractor to get it done as fast as possible to return their yard to normal is going to be, in my opinion, at the expense of that homeowner if they want it done faster.
And for me, the idea that you can get everybody has a line item of every nickel that they pay in taxes, and they want to get matched by every nickel of what they get back, I think is an absolutely abominable way of looking at government. I'll just use the example of, we could not have children, just physically could not have children. Half my tax bill has been paying for school taxes, and I'm happy to do it because that's the type of thing that makes the community. So again, the idea that you're supposed to get every nickel's worth of service for everything, I think is just the wrong way to go. I think that the county has done an exceptional job, and to worry about people who've come in and paid their private contractors and they might not get reimbursed is absolutely the wrong trail to go down. So I'm comfortable with the direction we're going.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to go ahead and make a motion then that we amend our policy to include the hurricane debris pickup on private roads, and that we leave it to staff to determine the process and who's going to pick it up and all of the right of entry permits and all that. But we just ask the board to amend our policy to include pickup on private roads.
Second with discussion.
But that includes with the release documentation.
Yes.
Yes, I think we do need that just to be sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I wanted edification from council. We are going to need notification back to the individual private streets and subdivisions, and it may be cumbersome, as you pointed out. There are HOAs involved, and there's ownership involved, and who has the right to sign documents. We have the luxury and pleasure of having the media here today, and I would like to see what information has to be brought out so that we can include, if this passes, if we can include the information so that if the media would be so kind to put it out, that we would have full cooperation by all of the private entities and get it accomplished quicker and more efficiently.
Very good. I think that's a good idea. And Jason, you may, or with legal, consider actually forming a press release that you can then distribute to the press and get that out. And if you can get it by the end of the day, I know that at 8 o'clock tomorrow, I'm on the Bob Sue Show, and that's a good opportunity to give good information out. I'd be happy to do that.
We will have that out by the end of the day. I do want to add a point. There is not a tipping fee for yard debris, for small yard debris that comes to the landfill. We do have a charge for those, for things over 4 inches, 3 inches. I have made the decision to waive that charge, so just want to make the board aware of that. So we're not charging the folks for that for the current period.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ma'am, name and address for the record, please.
Susan Boyd, 8025 24th Street, in the unincorporated part of the county. First of all, I just want to thank all of you for proving that government works. It was a tremendous job that you all did, and I really appreciated hearing Mr. Brown's list, because I think it's important for everybody to get credit for what they did to get us through this situation. Secondly, I'd just like to compliment the county commission staff. When I came over here yesterday, they were absolutely wonderful. They were sympathetic. They were helpful. They didn't dismiss me, and I just thought that you should be very proud of the people who work for you. All right, thirdly, I live on what is called a private road. It's lost a history to me as to why. I've lived there almost 18 years now. My father before me, maybe 20 years. And we don't have a homeowners association, and we don't pay any kind of dues. We get regular waste management, we get regular services from the county, and in the last hurricane, we did find out that we did have to come down and sign a form. So a couple of people got together and they came down and they signed the form. So I kind of knew about that, and that's why I came yesterday, when I read in the paper that private roads wouldn't be included. We're not a gated community. Anybody can drive into our community. And we happen to be, though, a community where all the trees weren't taken down. We still have most of our trees and our oaks and our pine trees. So we really got hammered by debris. I probably have, well, it was pretty hard for me to carry those branches to the edge of the lawn. I have a debris pile that's probably about 4 feet high now, and maybe 10 to 15 feet long. And waste management is very good about getting our regular yard waste, but obviously this is not regular yard waste. And so now, and I don't have a private contractor. So I'm heartened by what you're saying, but it also seems like you're going to put up a lot of difficult roadblocks. I have the form, but I can't say that that I went to all 36 houses and said, oh, I'm going to come down and do this for you. But I do know that those houses have huge debris fields out there and don't know that it's not going to be picked up. I think I get the paper, not everybody does, so that's when I read yesterday in the paper that you weren't going to pick up our debris. So I'd just like to know how this motion will help people that are in my situation. It's not the kind of debris that I can go and get a truck and put it on it. It's pretty heavy tree branches and that sort of thing. So I just want to know what it is that this
Susan,
will do.
I just recommend, what this will do for you is change the policy that we will try to pick up the hurricane debris on a private road. What I would suggest is that you get with the county attorney's office afterwards, because you might have kind of a unique situation, and they could advise you on how to proceed and what the process will be. So we're gonna leave that to staff to come up with that. But if you will get with Dylan or his office after this meeting, they'll give you the guidance of how to proceed.
And Mr. Chairman, the dilemma is that although you've signed this, and we appreciate it, that you've given us permission, you don't have the authority to, well, you may, I don't know, but we need some proof that you have the authority on behalf of the Property Owners Association through the Articles of Incorporation. It's a simple corporate search, and it'll tell you. And if you don't have that, you'll need to activate that probably in order for somebody to and that's probably $100 to to activate.
Or couldn't each, Chair,
All right, so you
couldn't
just
each
put up a
sign
roadblock.
individually?
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Again, why don't we
Why
let
could-
her
okay.
talk to Dylan and figure this out?
Right.
I mean, we just-
However, I did
We're
read
throwing
this.
things out there.
And it doesn't say anything about having to be, it just says my house, I believe. It doesn't say anything about how it has to be the whole community or anything like that. It's just me, Susan Boyd, giving you permission to come and pick up my stuff. So all the legalese, and I understand legalese, I understand that. But it's not in here that I can see. Maybe you're a lawyer, maybe you can tell me.
But again, I think Peter's right. I mean, the best thing to do is to get with them, and it's not something that we're going to be able to solve from the dais today.
I appreciate that, but I will say this, that what you're asking me to do is not possible. And in other words, to go and knock on every single door for 39 houses and get them to agree, even if they were all home, et cetera, it's not going to happen. And so I'm in a kind of like a dilemma.
How do y'all don't have an active property owners association. Y'all don't collect dues. And so you don't worry about the road because it's not needing fixed.
I've seen people get together in certain sections and do repair to roads, yes. Yeah. My road is, part is in perfectly good condition, and, you know, it's just a little car road. People don't drive or abuse it very much at all. So that's never been a problem.
All right, we'll get to the bottom of it somehow. Thanks.
All right, well, in the meantime, it's sitting there, and it's not undangerous stuff. So this is
quite frankly,
my
some
other...
stuff is going to sit here for some weeks. I mean, before we can get around to all of it. And so people need to understand that. The reason we have convenience centers is to make it convenient for people to take stuff down there.
If you have a truck.
Well, or you might have to get one. But again,
I guess I have to pay.
I don't believe that we can set everything up so that we can have near instantaneous removal of everybody's yard trash.
I think you really misunderstand me, Mr. Solari. I am not asking for instantaneous removal. I'm just asking for, as a taxpayer, as a person that actually pays my money into FEMA as well, I don't understand why they exclude us, and as a taxpayer to the county, I just don't understand why it's such a big deal. It's not a gated community. I mow my own lawn, I do my own gardening, et cetera, et cetera. It's not as though I live in a community where that's all done for me.
And we haven't even said it is a big deal. We said we'll try to work with it as well as we can, but the best way to do it is to get with the county attorney to work out whatever details. I mean, as we go through the process, we'll try to make it as simple as possible, but we don't have the answer right now from the dais.
Thank you for being so stern. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ma'am, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Tricia Stoddard. I know a couple of you at least have read my emails. As president of Forest Lake Homeowners Association and probably one of Joe Baird's most unfavored citizens when he took his position as county administrator, we did go through the decision to not pick up from private roads. I heard about FEMA. I heard about the potential liability for the private haulers or for county staff going through our gates, damaging our private roadways. All of that was addressed, resolved, and put aside. I do want to clarify for you, Mr. Brown, we were not, nor are we at this time, expecting anybody to come in and clean up. We are simply requesting the same benefit of the same service of picking up our stacked hurricane debris, not saturated household goods or furniture. Everything has been moved to the curb without obstructing traffic or mail delivery like it was back in 2004. My biggest question and concern is it isn't to review constitutional history or even taxpayer history. Private road designation affords us and the county the benefit of maintaining and illuminating our roads throughout every year, every day, of whether there's a hurricane or not. So we do, like Mr. Solari pays taxes for schools like I did when I sent my children to private school. I'm happy to pay those taxes. As taxpayers, we do pay the same taxes for road upkeep and maintenance. However, we save on the county side tens of thousands of dollars in repaving, maintaining, and illuminating those roads. We also are compelled to use Waste Management, their services under your contract, and allow them access, like private or public sector. We pay the same amounts and we benefit from the same services. However, during these times, we're being denied those same services because of our opting, or our developers opting, to establish a private road and save the county money and cost the homeowners additional money in assessments and dues and road reserves. I'm just saying that I do own property in St. Lucie County. I called them. They have already set up with debris removal teams and Waste Management to pick up hurricane debris. No designation, private or public roads. Maybe you can look at the lawfulness of discriminating. I don't really understand or see the need for the designation or the separation of services. If we're looking at saving money, geographical pickup makes the most sense rather than going back and forth. And if we look at the origin of the private road designation, I would venture a guess that the original framers were talking about somebody that owns, a massive piece of property, whether it be on the beach or over here on the mainland, and expect service for just that individual, and to include cleanup and additional services. We're talking about hurricane debris through no act of man, through act of God, and through our own elbow grease, moving it to the curb. Some people did haul away. Good for them. I'm proud of them. Some people took care of their elderly neighbors' debris and put it to the curb. That's what we're supposed to do as good neighbors. But I really don't comprehend, nor do I accept the discrimination on the private road service, the service being denied to private roads when we are citizens, tax-paying citizens like everybody else. And the right of entry waiver that I signed back in 2004 and renewed again in 2006, I believe, those did not expire. So maybe when you go forward in your disaster recovery plans, you might get a waiver or something in your file that doesn't expire. And I am on Sunbiz as president and chief cook and bottle washer for Forest Lake. I do everything, including the treasury. So I don't know how else to remove all of your obstacles and objections, but to say it's going to take weeks because we're on a private road, and it got out to the media post haste that we were not going to be benefit from this service. Certainly you can post it on your website, and certainly I'll tell everybody, but that's not the point. I don't know why there has to be this designation. It's not individual service. It's communities of taxpayers and citizens of this county.
Okay, yeah, I understand your concern fully. A couple of things. First of all, I want to say there's a motion, I think, on the table that will take care of Forest Lake and the private
I
developments like
understand that,
We
but
got the
the
direction.
ensuing comments about it could take weeks.
Okay, so if I can address that in a
Sure.
moment. We got direction to get a press release out by the end of the day. I will guarantee you that will happen.
Great.
We will get that communicated. We've got some members of the media in the room. We're going to ask them to help us get that message out. We will be sending it out through the same messaging that we did throughout the storm: text, email, phone, print media, our TV channel, website, all of that stuff. I don't anticipate it will take weeks. We should get there sooner than that. We're not going to be able to get that done by Thursday just because we won't be able to get enough right of entry forms executed. We will get something out as soon as we can on that. I do want to say that and I take full responsibility for the decisions, not Waste Management's, not the commissioners, nobody else, but me. I made that decision, and the difference is we have to have a public purpose, so we have to draw the line between public property and private property. It has to be drawn somewhere. So, for example, if someone's private home, the roof was damaged, they wouldn't expect the county to come fix their roof. Obviously, that's improving private property. So, to a lesser extent, there's a spectrum of private and public here. It's not as far there, but on a private road, we're straining that public, that definition of public purpose. We can't come in and improve private property. So that's part of that, and I don't really want to engage in a debate here because we're going to get you taken care of. I think I haven't heard much dispute for
Right.
There hasn't been a vote on this yet, but I'm not hearing a lot of dissension that this vote's not going to pass. So I'm thinking that you're going to get your neighborhood and those private subdivisions like yours are going to get taken care of based on this board's direction, and we will get it done as quickly as possible. I don't anticipate it will take weeks to get it done. We won't be able to get it engaged by Thursday just because we won't be able to get enough right of entry forms and everything all coordinated in that time, I don't think. So I'm not going to promise that, but we will get to it as quickly as we can, and it should not take weeks.
One question. So you cannot begin this endeavor until all right of entry forms are?
No,
Okay.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's fine. You answered
we
my
need more than
question.
two before we're going to start though. Yeah.
And secondly, my husband is in telecommunications, voice and data in New York City, and they learned a tremendous amount after 9/11 about disaster recovery. And I think if they learned anything else or nothing else, it was learn from that 20% you could have done better. You guys did great. Florida Power and Light had a media blitz saying you are going to lose power, but because of what we've done, we're going to do better. And they did do better. And my hat's off to them. And AT&T and all of the various aggregates and providers have done a great job. Cell towers, all of that, generators, Publix. Everybody has done a great job, and you've done a great job in this county. Your communications, I think that you've done pretty well considering how far that we've come in the last 12 years. I think there are some things based on my professional experience that you could tweak a little bit, but learn from other entities, municipalities, governments, disaster recovery learning curve, and you might discover that you didn't do so bad, and your 20% is really more like 5. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public want to speak on this issue? Name and address to the record, please.
Sure. Susan Adams, 100 South Pine Street. Good morning, Commissioners. I just wanted to echo Ms. Boyd's comments that you're going to have the same issue in Fellsmere. There's a lot of private roads out there, and the questions are already swirling around. So when you do your press release about debris cleanup, if you could include a snippet of information in there specifically addressing these issues and what those residents are going to need to do, would probably prevent some headache down the road. And also, I would suggest if there is a right of entry form that needs to be filled out by each property owner, that you include that on the website and with that press release, so they can go ahead and download it and get that in as quickly as possible. Because everybody wants to help you guys get it done as fast as they can, but they need the information to do it.
Let me make a point. I believe that our staff is already understands and very quickly address the difference between an HOA, which is a gated community, and other private roads. And I think they'll grasp that very fast. But if we go back in how we work with HOAs, when we did something which I thought was as simple as recycling, we got complaints because the trucks were there after 5 o'clock.
Well, you're going to get complaints no matter what you do.
I know, but I mean, so that's why we have to be kid gloves going in one direction.
Oh,
But
agreed.
complaints because the trucks are there after 5 o'clock. Complaints because we delivered big bins and the HOAs wouldn't allow the big bins around and wouldn't even give us time to do the small bins. So again, we try to accommodate.
I completely understand
No,
your
I know.
comments.
I'm just saying that we are
and
going to.
I'm not here in an adversarial position.
No, I know. I'm just trying to explain it to the public so that they understand. Our actions are not out of thin air. It's because we're trying to accommodate all people. But I think it's going to be very quickly that we understand. We treat a road like Commissioner Davis works on a lot differently than we treat a gated community up on A1A.
Completely
and we will
agreed.
address to that very quickly. That's all. The only point I wanted to make.
Sure. And I completely understand and agree with that. I just know that the last information that came out about debris removal did bring up some questions from the residents in the Fellsmere and Bear Lake Estates area. So I'm just bringing it to your attention that to clarify that for them would probably be very helpful for you guys in the long run.
Thank you.
So, thanks.
Morning, gentlemen. You guys all did a great job. I want to say that before I start. Joseph Paladin, President of Black Swan Consulting. I'm also president of several HOAs in the area, and some are gated communities, some of them aren't, but they're all private roads. Will this form be online so we can pull it up and email it to you?
Mr. Paladin, we will do as best we can to get this out there in all sorts of forms we can.
Okay, that'd make it a lot easier for us to cover more territory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for the public want to speak on this item? Mr. Chairman? Sir.
Bart has been very patient today, but we were less than patient with him throughout this storm, and he would like to say a few words.
Well, why don't we take a vote on this then, if there's nobody else who wants to speak on this particular item? And I think that the motion was by Commissioner O'Brien with a second by Commissioner Davis.
Right. No.
Okay, we'll give it to second to Commissioner Fletcher.
I'd just like to amend it to exclude any HOAs run by Joe Paladin, just.
I have to withdraw.
Re-election is coming up.
Oh, that's right.
So it does not include the Paladin amendment.
It does not include it.
Okay.
You'd say you did a nice
The
job.
motion stands as originally stated.
We have the motion
I
for
do.
Commissioner O'Brien, second by Commissioner Fletcher.
I do want to clarify, I don't want to overpromise. It may take a little more time just to get everything put together for the private roads. We will do it as quickly as we can.
Got it.
We will get it
We'll
done.
leave it to you all to figure out how to do it. Just,
Handle it.
the policy will be, we'll try to pick up debris on private roads.
And that is policy, not just this event. That's policy.
That's,
I think,
That is actually codified in our ordinance code, but I think the issue is that we address those issues on a case-by-case basis because every storm is very different.
Okay.
And
I'm good with that.
I don't want to be doing
This applies
special
to-
brush pickup after a thunderstorm.
No.
and to clarify, that's vegetative waste.
Vegetative waste.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Chairman, before Bart comes up, very glad that this motion passed, but I would like to say to Jason, when in doubt and you're posed with a situation where you're committing unbudgeted tax dollars, I think I would rather you say no initially, bring it to us to make the decision on it. What you did was correct, and it's gotten sorted out in just a few days after the storm. But I think when it's not budgeted money, you can't just go out and say, we're going to spend, I mean, this could easily be hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end of the day, and obviously we would like to participate in that discussion.
Mr. Chairman, along those same lines, in defense of the county administrator, he did exactly what his job was.
Yes.
Clearly. This was, and in fact, I got some numbers, speaking from him the other day, we think just on the public streets, it's going to be about a $600,000 ticket.
Right.
And so to add private to that and add unincorporated in River County, out in Fellsmere, on the ditches, this could go past 7 figures. And so
Right.
he did exactly what he should as the county administrator. And it's one of the most liberating motions I've ever made was to change their minds, and that's what we just did. So,
And quite frankly, I do believe that this will take a couple weeks.
yeah.
And when you get to the volume of stuff which is on roads, I know that our road itself probably today has 100 times more waste than it would have on a normal waste pickup day. And then when you get to the idea of private roads that we're not used to going down, and they're all throughout the county, I already had an email from a gentleman in the southwest corner of the county where he seldom sees a county worker. And so there are going to be pockets, just like most of the electricity got on within about 2 days after recovery, but there were those small pockets which for different reasons weren't serviced for 4 or 5 days. This, I believe the same thing's going to happen with the trash pickup. We're all humans. It's going to take a certain amount of time to get the last ones up. And I just think that's a fact of life which we're going to have to adjust to. It's not because anybody's not doing their job. It's not because all resources aren't being used for it. It's just because given limited resources and limited daylight hours, it's going to take X amount of time, and that's all. So with now, I believe we can have Bart come on up if you'd like to say a few words. Good morning. Glad to have you here. Glad to have you for the last few days, too.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's good to see you, especially after what we've all been through. I just wanted to make a few comments, a little bit about Florida Power and Light's restoration. And I think as we talk about improvement, I think we need to make sure we improve in how we communicate and how we restore to communities. So I wanted to give a little update this morning. As we prepared for Hurricane Matthew, we were all told this could be a Category 5 storm. That presented some issues because as much as we wanted to move crews throughout this county, we had to worry about the protection of our crews. So we looked for sites that could be Category 5. And at the time, unfortunately, we didn't have it all prepared as we should have. So that is definitely an area we look for improvement. And Commissioner, I definitely will be working with you on that because I want to have them staged throughout the entire county. That gives us a better opportunity for response. But we weren't going to put our employees in harm's way to ride out the storm. We were told this was going to be devastating, as were you, and that this could be a Category 5. We don't want a building to collapse on them. The truck can sit outside. The trucks are fine. It's housing our employees. As the storm rolled through the East Coast, it impacted 34 out of the 35 counties within our service territory. When the storm had passed Florida, electrical service was lost to over 1.1 million customers. Indian River County, we serve 55,400 customers, and I think 83% of those customers were affected by some kind of power loss. Our task was to deploy the local crews as immediately after the storm dropped. We have to wait until the wind stopped blowing at 35 miles per hour in order to get them out there. So as soon as we got the crews up here, we have to look at what we call our critical infrastructures. And just so everyone knows, critical infrastructures, we work with the EOC, with Mr. King's office, and we meet yearly and we discuss, here is what we consider to be our priority, that we can work with our local crews. So we dispatch them as soon as it's safely. If there's any damage, go over there to the hospitals, to the water plants, to the 911, the essential services.
To the commissioners' houses?
No, I'm sorry. We never play favorites, I can tell you that. So when you realize after the storm, you may look and you say, well, I didn't see anyone in my community. Why am I not seeing trucks roll by? And there's a reason for that. For example, up here, one of the critical infrastructures in the north end of the county was the Fellsmere water plant. So we could debate whether that was really a priority or not, but that's the process we work. And that is, again, in partnership, because in 2004, we went and we looked, how can we improve? We had 3 hurricanes. We got to be getting better at each one. We got to be prepared, because one day, had this been a 5 and it ripped up the entire East Coast, it would have been, maybe we weren't facing restoration, we were facing reconstruction.
Yeah.
So we sent our crews out, and we had to wait for the other crews. This storm affected crews in Miami They had to do cleanup there. As I said, 34 out of 35 counties. We had to wait for the crews there to start coming up. So as they were finishing restoration, which was not as bad as up here, they had rest time too. You can't work people 24 hours a day. They work 16-hour days. So we had to make sure they got up here, they moved up here, we could put them somewhere, they're rested, so they could get out the next morning. So they're really not available on Friday, right after the storm hit. So that's one of the issues. The other, we stage a number of crews coming from out the United States, tree crews, restoration crews from many other, and you've seen them in the community. We stage them in Lake City. And the issue was, as this storm rolled through, it was pounding St. John's, it was pounding Putnam County, the areas where they were. We couldn't roll them out of there. And remember, when the storm hit here, it continued slowly north. So that impacted them. But as you saw on Saturday, you saw a much better response. You saw our crews mobilized. What that takes is we have a staging site at the Sebastian Airport, hundreds of vehicles, well over 1,000 people. When they arrive, we have to give them maps. A lot of them aren't familiar with the area. They have to know what they're doing. I talked to a lineman, and he put it best. He said, as I go through the communities and I hear, well, I waved to your truck and the guy wouldn't stop. If we stop to talk to everybody, that's just slowing down the process. So forgive me in advance if you saw a crew drive by and they didn't stop and engage with you. But as they're going through the community, the lineman told me, he said, he did talk to somebody, and he said, I can fix your transformer. I can hook that line back up. But you know what? Until I get down the street and fix a feeder, which is a main artery running through the community, it's not going to matter what I fix here. So you have to have a plan. So our plan, and what the video would have shown, is that while we're working on the power plant and the substation, simultaneously we're out there working to get the feeders up. Feeders are the main branches. Laterals kind of run through the small neighborhoods. Then you got your service drop that runs down to your house. So if you get the feeder hot and everybody comes on, that's fantastic. But a lot of times you'll have some of these laterals. Something will be, there'll be a downed wire, something there we have to go work on. Then once we get the laterals up, you start to restore a neighborhood, and there's always that house, why me? How come it's only me? My neighbor has my lights on. Then once we get those taken care of, you get to these single no currents, that's what we call those. Then we get to the partial no current. My lights will work, but I can't get my washing machine on, my air conditioning, and that's called partial no current. And that's kind of the pecking order that we go in to restore the community. You know, we've invested $2 billion in our hardening system, and you've seen harder, stronger poles, because that is something we did learn as a lesson in 2004, that these poles aren't going to hold up. You saw what happened in Tallahassee, with much less winds, and those poles snapped. So we put in stronger poles, but you still have the wires. In this situation, wherever we hardened, we did not lose a single pole that was hardened. That's the good news. We lost a lot of wires. And a lot of it is because, as much as we love trees, trees are the enemy in a storm. Mm-hmm. So we as a community, the other thing we need to talk about is have a better program. We need to educate the public. We're out there spending a whole lot of ratepayer money to trim these trees. We have an easement 10 feet on each side. But what about that tree that's over there that is hanging there like the hanging sword of Damocles? You know, here comes a hurricane, all the efforts we've done, it's going to come this way. It's going to wipe out the wires.
And along those lines, our land development regulations are directly responsible for a lot of that, specifically. And I don't know the answer. We want a beautiful landscape. We want a beautiful streetscape. But I know exactly what you're talking about whenever you look at it and you see this magnificent landscape, and it's going straight up through the middle of a power line. And we're not going to solve that problem today, but
No, thank you for your comments. And that's, we try to educate the public with what we call the right tree, the right place. After one of the storms, somebody went down and got royal palms. I think this was in 2004. They planted them right under the feeder. You can't trim a palm tree. It's going to have to be removed. It's going to grow up, and then we're going to take it out. And that's just, so if we plant it in the right area. But we also have a program. We work with homeowners. When we identify some of these trees that are dead and just hanging maybe 12 feet off the easement, we actually have gone out there and cut them down for the homeowner. We won't stump grind and make it pretty, but we've done that because we know that's going to fall.
Yeah.
But there are a number of wires down, mainly because of the trees and the other debris falling around. But the good news is, rather than getting a crane and having to worry about putting a new pole in, you're restringing. So where in 2004, when you had storms with about the same similar impact that we had with this one, you saw weeks. Now we're talking about days. So I think we've done a much better job. We need to improve. I'm not going to sit here and say we're perfect. No, we need to improve. And I welcome your input. I welcome the community's input. So I'm proud of my company and what we've accomplished. We understand electricity is an essential service to our communities. We are tasked with restoring service, which in turn restores lives. And we take this with the utmost seriousness. Other utility companies, I think, are going to look at us as a model. And that's why we want to continue to improve. We want to be the best in the industry, in our class. I know they've had similar storms. I can remember one in Connecticut where they had an ice storm in October when the trees are all full of leaves. It decimated the community, and it took them almost 4 weeks to get everybody back in service. And I must tell you now, with the winds we have today, we show that Indian River is essentially restored. There are going to be pockets that we're going to still have to deal with, and we have 100 people still left here from our crews to be in this county to take care of these issues. And I think this will happen for weeks to come because some of these trees have been weakened, the wind blows, it's going to fall over, we may have loose connections, so there's still a lot we're going to be dealing with. The heroes in this, I'd like to thank our linemen. We had 14,000 people that were out there, and I can see in my building, many people were walking zombies, but they had an unbelievable task in front of them. They were up to it, and they were driven. We want to see people restored. We know how important it is.
Those 14,000, those were from other power companies?
No, sir, that's everybody total. That is with FPL and all the tree people and all the other people, and that's how many people it took. So right now, as we're kind of, as I said, as we were collapsing and moving people from Miami and Broward and all the way up here, we're concentrating on the rest of our service territory because Volusia, St. John's, Putnam, those areas really got hammered too, Flagler County. So we're still dealing with issues there because there's so many trees, and some people live in God's country up there where they have acres and acres and the trees just wipe things out.
Sure.
So we're still mopping up, and we also have to send crews. We'll be sending crews up to help in Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia. They helped us out. They actually sent crews down here saying it's going to hit Florida, only to turn around and have it affect their service territory. And I'd like to thank the elected officials. You guys have been great. You've been patient. You've also told me what I need to do to improve. You've told me the hot spots, what I need to work on, and I appreciate the feedback. Our communities have had to deal with days of impending doom, the impact, the aftermath of the storm, the cleanup, the recovery, the rebuilding, and our restoration. Our community is frazzled beyond belief. We sat for days and we heard, somebody on CNN, I think it was, said, if you live along the coast in Indian River and Brevard County, your towns may turn into inlets. You know, you need to get out. Governor Scott was telling us as a precaution, I think he too did a great job, but he was telling us, get out of there. So we're all frazzled to pack up and worry and leave and think, I may not return to a home. When my wife left, she was in tears. She said, I may not see you again. I mean, that's serious. So I value your feedback. Your constituents are also our valued customers, and including you. I too would like to thank Jason. I think he's been incredible. Thank you for bearing with me, for being patient, but he gave me a lot of direction. He gave me a lot of feedback of what you were getting from your constituents, and that was invaluable. Also, the city of Sebastian, Joe Griffin and Mayor McPartland, to set up that staging site up there. If you haven't been there, you have to do a command center. You have to bring in communications. You have to have cell phones charged. You have to have maps. You have to have printers. You have to have tents. People sleep in these tents. They come here and they work 16-hour days, and then they're told, go sleep on a cot. So it's an incredible undertaking. It takes a little bit of time. Can we shave that time? Sure we can. And we're going to continue to do so. Edwards Deming was kind of a guru of quality improvement. When, after World War II, he went to Japan and he helped them revitalize. They were a destroyed company. And he developed quality improvement, and he looked for the continuous pursuit of excellence. And that is something we're driven by in our company. We won the Deming Award. We were the first company outside the United States ever to win this award. So we look at our processes, and that is plan, do, check, act. And that's what we're looking at in this storm. Did we have the adequate plan? Did we do? Did we act? And then check. The continuous circle, the Deming wheel, they call it. We talked a little bit about the AMI, the smart grid, we call it. The AMI is going to provide a lot of assistance. It helped with restoration time. We could check schools. Schools are important. You don't want kids getting there and the air conditioner's out and they're hot and miserable. Maybe the parents are called, come get your children. We are able to sit at a desk, ping the meter, and it will show you, here are the 3 phases. They have to be in sign, otherwise that air conditioner says, I'm not working. So we can sit at a desk and hit a button and it will show us what the voltage levels are. And at your homes, when a system is up and running, and the system is throughout our community, but we have to have electricity to it, but it will show us that if it's not sending a pulse every 15 seconds, then we know there is a problem there. So that's going to help us with a lot of mop-up. There are going to be issues with it. I don't know if some of these devices went flying. We may have to rebuild that. With that, that's just some of the continued technology. We didn't have that in 2004. I think somebody would have been crazy if they had told me that that would have been available. I mean, that's science fiction stuff. With this, though, I can tell you in the future, it will help us even with the street lights, so that when we go through the communities, no longer will people have to report it. Once we get this system installed, it's going to tell us, here's a day burner, a waste of electricity, here's one that's flickering, here's a complete outage. So we use that, the smart grid, to be able to get feedback from our customers to know when you're out. It does predictive analysis that there's something wrong with that line. We're starting to see some voltage imbalance. We need to correct it so you don't see the flickering in your house or things like that. So again, we look to continue to improve. I appreciate your patience and understanding. This is our community. We want to represent you well. We want to be the best in industry. So thank you.
And thank you very much, Commissioner Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bart, I just want to say thank you for taking our calls throughout the night, dealing with the 5 of us in different capacities. I want to thank Mrs. Cajans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because she gave you to us, and you were there. And I want the people to know how approachable and available you were in real-time scenario, real-time information, and just taking the information in. It was critical. You did thank the City of Sebastian, and I have to say that the City of Sebastian Police Chief ensured swift and untethered access in and out, and provided a great umbrella of safety for your teams as well as the citizens. But it was a large undertaking. I want to thank you for, as well as facilitating the president of FP&L, and to giving the chairman and myself the opportunity to have some time to discuss. We will have follow-ups. And when you said, I said earlier about that 10 and 20%, we did identify some things, and I appreciate your receptiveness. Yes, we will do it better. Some of that 20% is we can work with and make that happen as well, and we're going to explore some opportunities, specifically with lodging. Yes. And that was critical. I think that'll help with the first 12 hours of response, and I think that was the frustration that was developing with the citizens. But I think they have a better understanding of the value of the smart system, smart meters, because when they made phone calls, they knew that they were getting information of when power would be back, and they knew that the people who called from those specific numbers, if they can associate with an account, they knew that they were in fact out and that they would be working on it, and it was identified and got into your logistics plan. So again, I think great benefit overall. I can't thank you enough. It was great to see many different companies here. And now people should know that they did move on. You have a basic crew here to continue on. We'll have aftermath.
Yes.
And we might have some reparations that have to be tasked at, but thank you for that, and we'll continue on and we'll have that further discussion. Also want to invite you to bring back that video we had discussed during our hurricane discussion, that you know, education happens throughout the year, and unfortunately with the technology challenge today, we can't provide that, but I would like to invite you back to, if that pleases the chair and the board, to show the video, to better explain what people can anticipate in the future. I think it's of extreme value for any future endeavors. I hope we never see another hurricane, but unfortunately, that's not in my hands. It's in our hands to be able to deal with it and approach it. And I know that you will be there as well, and we need to be better. All of us need to be better. But overall, great job. Thank you.
Thank you, but I may not be here the next 30 years with Jason.
Why? Why?
I can't go through too many more hurricanes.
Thank you, though.
I want to
Thank you
briefly thank Bart, too.
Commissioner Zork.
Yes, thank you. Great job during the storm. Got to meet a number of your staff that were rotating at EOC as they would come in and out kind of during their shift change. Are you familiar with what's called the ESF 12 report? That's kind of the
daily report?
Right. In reporting, do you know, and I'm trying to differentiate because we have more than one power provider in our community, and well into the storm and well into after the storm had passed, they were indicating no service outage, which I know was not correct. Are those automatically updated, or how does that information get to the governor's office for? Because they look at that as where are the problems at, and if one power system is showing, gee, we don't have any outages, that kind of gives a false sense of something. I don't know exactly what you'd like to call it, but if you don't have any outage at all. So I don't know if on smart meters, I guess you guys have sort of real time, you know when somebody's out because it's going to tell you that it's out.
I'm not sure where those numbers came from, but we do have that portal that gives you the hourly update as far as how many people are out and where our restoration is. And I know that comes from our distribution group. How they accumulate that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's the tickets or how many customers. We know pretty much how many meters are on a feeder. So I'm sure if they know that feeder is out, it's affecting this many meters and this many customers.
Right, okay. Next question is, you'd mentioned in the beginning of your talk that in, I guess, prior meetings with EOC and John King, that kind of had a list of, here's where this is our priority list, whether it's schools, hospital, whatever the order is. John, is that something that's worked out in advance with them? And do we have that plan and agreement with our other power provider?
Yeah.
We do, okay. All right. Lastly, and looking at the latest report, the numbers look really encouraging that they're really down to just a handful that are left, and which is good. But I didn't know this report existed until somebody from Tallahassee called me and said, hey, wow, great, I see part of FP&L's got some outages, but it looks like the other provider did really well because they don't show any outages. And I said, I don't think that's correct. And then we made some inquiries and found that, and then they did start reporting actual numbers.
We try to be very transparent, but I'm not sure what that report, how that's indicated. That's from the governor's office?
That's who.
Or is that John?
They had got signed up on something many years ago and are on a notification list.
Okay.
And then I looked up.
Is that through CERT?
It's through Florida Division of Emergency Management.
Okay.
And then they cover ESF 12. 12 is energy and 3 is public works. And it's kind of a tally list of damage amounts and infrastructure that's out of service and those things. So I guess they said that's what the governor looks at to get a snapshot of what's going on around the state, looking at that system. And that was the last of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a simple explanation. As far as the ES12 report, everything starts at 0. There is no, they have to have a blank canvas Right. So if that report comes in early and it's not updated, they will continue to have a zero damage assessment. And having been inside, they do bring in information, and Ed could probably explain it greater, that there is constant, as they ping the meters, they are constantly updating the information from the ESF. We do have a statewide call-in, so all of the EOCs report their data. So that data that you have there, that's a hard copy. That hard copy was probably produced early on, and that is not real-time data.
Well, they're done hourly, I believe, and then sent out.
And that's sent up.
Right.
But
I know they're sent out
it's as good as
hourly
the
based
amount
on-
of information that is gotten, and if they rely back on initial information, we have no damage.
And I think yours was accurate. City of Fort Pierce Electric was reporting significant outages, and everybody around it, there was just this pocket of no outages that kind of stood out on the 9 a.m. Friday report that caught this person's eye and said, wow, great news.
Well, again, the argument for smart meters, again, there it is. We people physically had to get out there and assess the damage, take pictures, and report it in order to get it on that report, which takes many, many hours. Thank you.
And I forgot to mention about our patrols. Immediately after a storm, rather than send crews out there and say, just drive around, see what you can do, we have to have patrols. Sometimes they are not in marked cars. I have a private vehicle. I could be out patrolling and you wouldn't notice, other than maybe me stopping and looking at things. But patrols have to go out into the area, because then we need to tell the tree crews, we can't do anything over there until you get the trees off the line. Mm-hmm. So that's important to know. The other thing, I would encourage everybody who is an FPL customer, make sure we have, maybe you want to list your cell number, because if you're a dinosaur like me and you still have an answering machine, and I used to call home to see, all right, if the answering machine picks up, I'm on. Right. But now I realize, well, I've got to update and put my cell number on there, because we do automated calls to say, all right, we're going to be in your area. So it does provide you updates. And if you have it to your home number and it's driven by electricity and you don't have it, you're not going to be getting those messages. So things like that we need to do in our messaging.
It was great information coming out from the company, whether it was by email, by text message, by recorded messages. So you knew where everything stood and when you're likely to get restoration.
But we need to improve.
Mr. Chairman.
I will take all that back, so thank you.
Yes, Jason.
Real briefly, I want to thank Bart Getchins too. He was great to work with, and I do want to mention, I left out before, of course, like FPL, we're committed to continuous improvement. We will be evaluating what we could do better next time, and we hope we don't have to use it, but we'll make sure if we do, we're even better next time.
Thank you very much. And Bart, thank you very much for coming today. And thank you for all that you and FPL and the other service provider did over the last days to get all the community repowered.
Thank you, commissioners, and God bless.
Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.